Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Thursday Facebook Live about being pregnant in a pandemic, where we tackle such maternity topics such as breastfeeding to wellness to meditation. And today we're going to be dealing with mental health in pregnancy, especially as it relates to this pandemic. So I have a special guest here today that is going to help us do that. And I'm going to introduce her in just a bit. And Sandra, I'm going to have you introduce yourself in just a little bit. But I'm going to tell them a little bit about LunaYou and what they are in a treat for just in a little bit. So we're super excited to be here with Sandra Victorino, who is our advisory board member for LunaYou. And if you're curious as to what LunaYou is, LunaYou's whole goal is to support your well-being while you're pregnant and 3 months postpartum. We know, and research tells us that when you focus on your well-being as a mother, that your health outcomes will strengthen, that your maternal outcomes will be improved. And so that's what we're all about here, caring for your wellness and your well-being in terms of nutrition, activity, and how you feel about yourself inside and out. And so that's what LunaYou is. That's what we're all about. Right now, we are recruiting women in Rhode Island. So if you're currently pregnant due between April and December, we would love to connect with you. We would love to get resources to you and from you so that you can help other women to find their voice. And so that's what it's all about. So this brings me to our special guest today. We've had tons of questions about mental health and mental health wellness during this time. I'm a mother of a 2-year-old. You'll probably see him right here making his cameo appearances. And it's just a lot to juggle, you know? So we brought in an expert, a specialist that will help us, Sandra Victorino. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Courtney.
A little bit about Sandra. She is on our advisory board at LunaYou, and the director of acute care services at the Providence Center, which is a community mental health center, and the co-founder of the Latino Mental Health Network. She has worked in the mental health field for 15 years. That's a long time. In her areas of interest in our healthcare are access for minority populations, health, mental health equity, and cultural and linguistical appropriate health services. In addition, her community work focuses on building leadership capabilities, diversity and inclusion, and developing and strengthening partnerships in our community. Welcome, Sandra.
Thanks, Courtney. Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Anything you want to add? Something else you want us to know about you? That's so much.
Yeah, I've been doing this for quite some time. I've actually been in Rhode Island for about 10 years, and I've worked a lot with the Latino community, along with other minority communities within Rhode Island. It's been a real treat for me because I always see myself as a visitor in Rhode Island, and Rhode Islanders have really welcomed me in living here. So it's been pretty great.
That has definitely been the same experience. At first, I moved here from Nashville, so coming from the south to the northeast, I thought for sure I'm like, oh, they're gonna be rude. It's just like what you do all the time, but that's been quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Rhode Islanders are very sweet, and so that has definitely been a great thing as we navigated this and transitioned here. So awesome.
Yay.
So tell me about why is focusing on mental health in pregnancy so important?
It's just important for the mother and the fetus's well-being. Honestly, it's a life-changing event, and any life-changing event can be stressful and can create change. So it's something that we really just need to pay more attention to and be mindful of the changes that are happening around us for that mother and fetus and those that are around in their environment as well.
Yeah, and that's right. Like pregnancy, that's a life change. So no matter whether we're in a pandemic or not, this is life altering for the
Yes.
life, you know? And so that brings any type of life change definitely brings a lot of stress. So what are some signs and symptoms of high stress during pregnancy?
So some of the symptoms will be, the normal of appetite, change in appetite, lack of sleep, If you think about any stressful situation in your life, I mean, those are normally the way our body will respond. I mean, I've had some people that can feel tension in their neck, or, they feel it when they overeat or undereat, oversleep or undersleep. The one thing, so, for those that are pregnant, it's, feeling fears and worry of the pregnancy and the delivery, of course. Those create high stress, but also, someone with postpartum depression can be, the signs are a little bit different for that. For someone, it could be more along the lines of not doing a good job as a mom. And so those are some of the things that can equate and that make it a little bit different for those stressful situations.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that you said that because I know we focus a lot on postpartum, and that's really important. That there can be signs before
Mhm.
you're having the baby, and then after are having the baby that you should be on the lookout. And so, with that being said, um, what are some like stress relieving tips that a mother can employ in her life? Because I know I need some right now.
Yeah. Yes, I think we all have tried to find different ways. I think many of our ways have, those of us that are extroverts certainly used to get our energy from being around other people, and we've had to really transition what that looks like. I know I've been one of those people that used to get it from going and, looking at live music, and I don't have that option anymore, and it just doesn't cut it for me in Facebook and, live streaming. And so it's finding ways that really are true to ourselves and authentic. And so, some of the ways that I've coached people and kind of provided therapy is reframing from watching social, like the news all the time. It's one of the biggest things is if we can step away and find, times that we do check up just to find our facts, and, making sure we're actually looking at valid sites and news channels that provide us the information that are going on in our local and our global news. But so that's one of them, giving yourself that time. When am I going to check in and when am I going to check out? So someone said something really great this week when I was on a webinar, and she said, I give myself 15 minutes. Um, I don't look at my phone or my emails for 15 minutes when I wake up. So I give myself that time in the morning, and then I don't do it 15 minutes before I go to sleep. So really separating ourselves from our screens in that way. But other ways would be meditation. There's a lot of places that are offering free meditation, like Brown Mindfulness right now is one of the places that is, and they are providing it both in English and Spanish for those that are Spanish speaking. Um, so it's a free resource. There's a lot of yoga studios that in Rhode Island that have posted things on their websites. And so that's one way. If those that had gym memberships, a lot of the gyms are doing Zoom workouts. So look for any yoga classes that might be on there. Those are always great. Um, so, and then connecting with friends and family, and connecting in a way that's true to you. So I know that there's a lot of people that are really into doing Zoom parties and, connecting, doing it this way and that way. And so some people are starting to become exhausted with that because you have to be on a camera all the time on a Zoom call. So it's really knowing what's true for you. Is it through text message that you connect best with someone? Is it through a phone call? Or is it through video conferencing? So, and finding that balance.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, I know, right? We're all consumed. Um, and then getting enough sleep. So having consistent sleep patterns, eating patterns, exercising, going out for meditative walks, and really focusing on what's around us. I know at this time, because there's such few people that are out walking certain times, and it almost feels like just naturally our world has taken these shifts, and like I go in the morning, I go in the afternoon, but it's just such a way of really centering ourselves and really paying attention to what's around us, and so being intentional in that way. um, New hobbies has been, picking up that hobby that we just hadn't been able to do, learning a new language, learning a new instrument, and trying not to drive our families crazy, but those are all beautiful things that we can do, and just kind of putting into our eclectic box. I know a mom had stated that she grabbed all of her kids' artwork that was in storage, and then she was putting it together to make an artwork of just like to put it into her dining room. And so, you know, there's different ways of being able to do that. And then online support groups and forums that are out there. I know that there are a lot of different ways connecting spiritually, if someone is spiritual, to their church or their faith, or finding different ways, because there's some people that are religious and others that are spiritual. Um, Online counseling, of course. A lot of us have gone into telehealth or video conferencing if people have the capability of doing that. Um, it's such an offering, because as a therapist, it was something we couldn't offer our clients in the past, and now we can do that. And so it's a different way of being able to provide that support. And then extra help, asking people,
Yeah.
asking your partner, asking your neighbors. There's so many people that are willing and wanting to drop off groceries for people and doing that kind of stuff. So really asking for it as well.
Those are some amazing tips, just tips that I know that we led a guided meditation last week through
Mm,
this, just some deep breathing and some gratitude meditations, just thinking
yes.
positive things or thinking about that. But I love how you're saying like withdraw or like gauge what's good for you. Like I don't think I would have been to as many parties as I have in real life as I've been on Zoom. So I've
Yeah.
many like Zoom parties and Zoom this and Zoom get-togethers, and that could be overwhelming, and that could be a lot of overstimulation. So that's really good. At the end, you talked about like reaching out to like your support in a circle of support, and we
Mhm.
do a thing with LunaYou and the women in LunaYou where we help you to identify a circle of support around you because the goal is sustainability, right? We want to
Mhm.
that we're not coming in providing intervention, but then you don't have any.
Yeah.
So identifying who's around you that can support you in a meaningful way. So with mental health, how a lot of questions that we get and a lot of things that we work on in LunaYou is how do I talk to my circle of support about like if I'm having problems with mental health or if some of my thoughts just kind of aren't normal.
So I think it's one is identifying that I'm having that concern. So it's really important that when our patterns change, is really keeping a journal and tracking that. I think, with someone that's, going through a pregnancy, my niece just delivered during this pandemic. And so it was really, yeah, it was really checking in with her and saying, "Hey, what do you need?" Because she's not the one to extend or to ask for it. So
Yeah.
if I would ask her, she would then respond like, "I'm doing great, like connecting, doing this," or "I'm really tired." And so as her support system, I was trying to make sure that I was watching for anything that she may need. And but for someone that is in that situation, it's also being mindful of our schedules and our routines. And so if we can if we can pay attention to those schedules and those routines, then we know something isn't going right. We're mindful of when it isn't going right. And so that's such the important part, is where I see people that sometimes they don't notice when that shift happens. So really paying attention to the people that are around us and saying, "Oh, they say something's going on, let me check in." And so, or "I feel different, let me just check in." And so we always, in the therapy world, we always say, like, whenever you're starting to feel like that, some people may feel it physically in their body. So stress in the neck, shortness of breath in the chest, belly aches like that aren't normally there, insensitivity to certain foods. Like those are times of being like, I'm a little off, I should just check in with someone. So with LunaYou, right, there's a well-being coach that I can check in with. That's awesome. And with your colleagues that you may have not connected with but know you, "Hey, is this different than, am I doing this different?" So
Yeah.
those are ways of being able to kind of do a check and balance, because we really should be doing a check and balance with our emotions. If we leave it up to ourselves, we're only listening to one voice, and that's our voice in our head that normally tells us we are strong, we're great, we don't need anything. And we do, we're human beings. We connect for a reason. We, There's a reason we miss hugs right now. Um, that's one of the things. I was never a hugger, and I miss hugs.
Hugs, yeah.
I Yeah, and so it's interesting. I'm like, "Oh, I am a hugger. I haven't had a hug in a while." So those are things that we can cue into our body because our body knows us so well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really important that, like, the things that are necessary to, like, function in life, like hugs, like, you may not be, like, a hugger by, like, nature, but it's, like, the absence of them are just, like, I need those hugs, and so
Yeah.
that's a great point, and so what advice would you give to people who feel that they don't have a circle of support to turn to or anybody to talk to? What can they do?
So, I mean, for those that are pregnant right now, they have a lifeline with their midwives or their doctors, or even with LunaYou or their doulas or anybody that is within their circle of treatment.
Yeah.
All of these professionals know how to reach out and get collaboration and create connections. It's super scary, I think, to look for a therapist and to really go out there and get one. So it's really important as providers that we end up helping people connect
Yeah.
and understanding that it's stressful. I mean, for many of my friends that are social workers or therapists, I even helping them find sometimes for their family members has been a stressful thing to make the connection happen. So I can't imagine what it's like for someone that doesn't come from that background. So really ask your providers. Your providers know and have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to resources. So, like, most people don't know the difference between a mental health or therapist, social worker, psychologist. So all of us do similar work. Psychiatrist is going to give me my medications. So when you're needing some adjusting and when things are just not working anymore is the other thing. Is like I've talked to my support system. I've tried all of my like feeling well, we call them coping skills.
Mhm.
Um things, and it just isn't working for me. So this is the time that I should be reaching out to those that, because someone may not have a circle of support. So it would be reaching out to your providers because you do have those providers that are in place for that.
Yeah, and that goes to that next thing. It's like that's when you should seek professional help. Like people
Mhm.
here to assist you, and it's not like it has to get so bad or it has to get this for you to seek professional help. Like professionals are here to assist along the way,
Yes.
even
And
preventative measures. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, and so one of the things is that I think often what I've heard, and it's been a small group of my friends that, and even other professionals that I've talked to, they're like, I just felt so isolated because I wasn't the happy-go-lucky mother. And I wasn't super happy about my pregnancy. And so I felt shame that I may not be a good mother. And it was interesting because it was other therapists sometimes having that conversation with me. And this, I mean, after 15 years of being in the field, you get a lot of stories. And so it was very interesting to me how much pressure we put on ourselves. And depression, there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to depression and anxiety. It's no one's fault. And it's so treatable. It's something that I've had people that have come in to see me for a check-in, and I'm like, "Are you sure you want to be here?" They're like, "I don't really need to, but I really love having a sounding board." And I'm like, "That's exactly what therapy is. It's hearing our voice outside of our head and saying, "Oh, is that really what I'm thinking right now? And what is it that I need?" Because a lot of times what we do is we pull from our coping skills from the past to deal with crisis situations in the present. Well, we're no longer that person.
Yeah.
So we may not know how to deal with the new stuff that's going in our lives. And that's kind of where therapists and, psychologists and social workers really help out.
Yeah, that great sounding board just to have someone to talk to and just to get out of your own head and
Mhm.
that's the truth. I know for a fact that motherhood is not one size like fits all. And I kind of blame
Yes.
Hollywood for that, just how they portray giving birth and how they portray motherhood on the good sides and the bad sides, right? It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be as dramatic on either side. It could just be your norm and that's normal because it's your norm. So yeah, that's a good point. And then the last question, and then I'm gonna ask you something else, but how do you think LunaYou can assist in a woman's mental well-being?
So, going back to it, so I really feel like, what LunaYou can do is help people set up a schedule. Like if they're in stress mode, like, what works for them, and really supporting them and doing that when they're working with an individual. The other piece of it is just the check-ins. The check-ins are so important because really, well, we're not going to know exactly when and where, but to have someone check in on you is like such an important way of doing. I mean, you guys are already doing fantastic work, and like I think having these webinars have been, live feeds have been awesome for people to be able to grab a hold of and say, oh, this is what I need right now.
Mhm.
But I think access is what's really important. It's just access, and then collaboration with the providers that are within the community.
Yeah.
So, knowing the resources that exist out there. I mean, I know that I had informed you that, so like for the Providence Center, we have an emergency service number where people can call 24/7, and it's anybody in the community. So we've had people that have called and said, I just wanted to hear someone's voice,
Oh,
because I hadn't heard anyone's voice. And so that's what's important. Sometimes we don't know we need that connection.
right, right. Wow, and that's powerful is that human connection. I know that you're gonna provide us with that number, and we'll
Uh-huh.
resources online so that people can see them at www.lunayou.com so that people can access them and see them. But that's really powerful, like that human connection and having that ability. And that's what LunaYou is about. It's really giving you to find your own voice within yourself, but then also with the assistance of the well-being coach, pulling out the well-being that's already inside of you. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's awesome. So I know that you have worked with a lot of minority populations in healthcare and mental health and all of this. And so what as the stats are coming out about COVID-19 and all the things that are happening, it seems to be disproportionately affecting African American and Latina populations. And can you help us understand or why you think that may be?
So, I mean, one of the things that we have to take into consideration, like for us here in Rhode Island, it's Central Falls, and it's very dense living census. So, like, there's a lot of people that live within an area. We have to think about what it is. I know for like the Latino community, um, in my own experience, it's been, multiple generations sometimes living in a household. Um, Being the frontline workers, the essential workers that are still going in, making sure that there was access and resources, and then the correct information. And so I think a lot of those things have been addressed, and have been there has now been there's been like, I know there's a testing site on Memorial Grounds that people can walk up to, because if they can't drive, they can walk there and they can get tested. And so those are the important parts that needed to happen and have happened. Masks, if the community didn't have masks in time. So I think that this is a way of showing us some of the health disparities that have already existed, and what can we do better once we're now, and where we're going in our future. And I think that those are some of the things that I really think about is how do we build a bridge and create better healthcare systems that don't create these healthcare disparities, right? So this is, and I think about it all the time. This is like me, and a lot of the work that I love doing, because access is so important and information is so important, and we want to make sure we're providing the correct information in all the languages. I mean, we have large refugee populations here in Rhode Island, and I know that our state has been really trying to create change for that. And I really do attribute the concern for, so health disparities, dense living situations, and then a lot of the people being having to use public transportation, and then being our frontline workers.
Yeah, and that's a great point. You know, like we do tons of research as it relates to like maternal health. And
Mhm.
just in our research and finding that Black and Latino women are 3 times more likely to either die in childbirth or have high morbidity rate for like low birth rate, preeclampsia, eclampsia, or other complications in pregnancy and childbirth or after childbirth, up to like
Yeah.
here. And we found that sometimes it has nothing to do with education level or going or, being, but everything to do with just not being heard because you're
Yeah.
a population, just not taken serious because you're a minority population. And we see the same trends that are happening in maternal health and some of these disparities a lot of times that are coming out where it's just like maybe because we're not being heard. Like there's a story of a African American woman who they just told her that she actually had COVID symptoms, but they said that she was having a panic attack and she actually died
Mhm.
of COVID because her symptoms weren't taken serious in like how she was describing them. And so really LunaYou is in place to really give you that power to know what to say, how to say it, and trust your own voice. When you feel
Yeah.
that is not right, it probably isn't because you're your best advocate. You know when you're normal, you know when you're high functioning, you know when you're firing on all cylinders. And so you are your best advocate. And that's really what LunaYou is about is in pregnancy supporting you to know that you're your best advocate and making sure that the system on all levels are able to support you. And so I think that's a lot of what is happening. Um, we aren't able to advocate for ourselves, along with lots of other factors and all the things
Yes.
too. Um,
Yeah.
that kind of just is this whirlwind of just sadness that is happening in our communities. Um, so that's it. But thank you. Oh, and Sandra, you have anything else to say?
So one of the things that I wanted to just remind everyone and providers that I think sometimes providers don't always have all the information, and I think they're trying to gather the information. And so, really, trusting our voice, like you said, and saying what we need, and and advocating for ourselves, and having our support systems there to advocate for us. But I know that the other thing of it is that I know there's a battle between us following our cultural norms of eating dinner with our loved ones, and then if we're working, like I'm still working, and luckily I don't expose anybody. I'm not bringing anything, like my husband and I, it's just my husband and I, but it's not a large number of people in the household. So just being mindful on both sides, because that's such pressure for the community and the culture. And to say, just isolate yourself, it's not
Yeah.
that easy sometimes to just isolate yourself, because there's cultural responsibilities and norms that exist within a household sometimes. So just being mindful of those cultural differences.
Absolutely. That's a powerful point, right? And it's what makes us unique and it's what makes us us, but everybody is not privy to a lot of the things that are necessary to stay safe in this time.
Hmm.
So that's a really powerful point. Do you have any other last words, Sandra, that you want to leave people?
Not really, but I thank you so much for having me. Everybody be safe, be well, allow your voice to be heard, pull your people in. I know that, I was always told when I was growing up, calladita te ves más bonita. So when you're quiet, you look prettier. So, it's letting our voices out there. I know that it's just making sure that we're getting what we need and the care that we deserve.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sandra, your information is on our website, and the links to all the resources that you provided will be on there as well. Everybody help me thank Sandra for her awesome time with us today. She is an advisory board member, so she's a part of the LunaYou family, and we're just super excited that she's a part of us. I hope you are well, Sandra, and that thank you just for providing this valuable information to us, to women, to those that are carrying a child. We like to say every session that you are magical. You are carrying magic inside of you, and therefore take care of the magic inside of you and be well. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.